I'm sure many of you still remember where you were when Tiger King dropped, a documentary series that took the world by storm, had us all in a titty twister, making references and discussions about it for probably close to like a full month, because it was a riveting tale full of twists and turns that no one would have ever expected, with a cast of wacky, zany characters and some really dark shit. A documentary where everyone's a villain and it is some revolting garbage that they get involved in, and it gets very sad very quick. And it led to like a lot of mystery too. So people were constantly talking about like, oh yeah, Carol Baskin definitely killed her husband. She sucked his soul out like Shang Tsung. Or even hatching their own conspiracy theories like, no, Carol Baskin's husband is most certainly alive, hanging out with Tupac, on this island over there. Or, I just saw Carol Baskin's husband put a quarter into the little rocket ship right outside of Kmart. He's definitely still breathing in this corporeal dimension. I actually was just at a Denny's and Carol Baskin's husband leaned over and asked if I wanted to share a crack pipe with him. It was a documentary series that blew up. Absolutely exploded. And now, 4 years later, Eric Goode, the man behind Tiger King, has released a new documentary called Chimp Crazy. And there's 2 episodes out at the moment, and I just watched both of them, and I kind of want to give you my thoughts on it here. First and foremost, this show follows a similar concept. Exotic animals and a lot of twists and turns and a lot of demented, diabolical even, events that unfold. I'm going to try and avoid like big spoilers, but I do want to talk directly about a couple things in these episodes. The documentary mainly follows someone named Tanya Haddock, and she describes herself as the Dolly Parton of chimps. She says others call her that, but I've got a sneaking suspicion that it's mainly just a title she came up with for herself. That's her little Xbox Live gamer tag, the Dolly Parton of chimps. She gets a lot of work done, does a lot of tanning, and it's kind of a big part of her personality to a certain extent, I suppose. But the big thing about her is she is obsessed with chimps. And she gets a job working at a chimp sanctuary, which is a term I'm using very loosely to describe how she gets involved in this story. Initially, I thought Tanya was someone who had maybe seen Tiger King and saw Joe Exotic become like a household name for a little while, and she wanted to try and capture that lightning in a bottle herself, so she tried to, latch on to that, suckle from that bosom of success. However, by the end of episode 2, it becomes very clear, well, even in the middle of episode 1, it became very clear to me, no, she just has like a legitimate obsession. She has no background or no education in anything even tangentially related to chimpanzees, yet gets a job caring for them, and you can obviously start to connect some dots that that's not exactly a good combination. That's a recipe for disaster. So it starts to showcase how miscared for a lot of chimpanzees at this foundation she works at were. And it documents this legal battle between her, the Foundation, and PETA. That's the focal point here. But it also just shines a light on the buying and selling of chimpanzees in general. And from the very beginning, they bring in some people. It seems like there's a whole community of people whose entire lives revolve around chimpanzees. So one of the first people we're introduced to is someone who has pretty much dedicated their whole lives to them, and even talks about how when a baby chimpanzee was born, it was born premature and couldn't digest formula. So what she ended up doing was breastfeeding the chimpanzee, actually breastfeeding it. The husband then goes on and he goes, yep, so I walked in on Pam holding our baby, a human baby, in one hand on one boobie, and then the chimpanzee on the other. She was literally akimbo breastfeeding one human and one chimpanzee, apparently. So it becomes very clear that this documentary is going to explore some weird shit. We have this woman and her husband talking about how she was dual-wielding her honkers in order to breastfeed a fucking chimpanzee and her baby as well at the same time. That's unfathomable. That's so baffling. But there's a reason that segment is there. It's because it turns out most chimpanzees that people own as pets come from one person named Connie. And Connie owned this foundation for chimpanzees that she was breeding and selling to people for pets for $40,000 to $65,000 a pop. And Tawny Haddix, the Dolly Parton of chimps, gets a job working there. And then she kind of becomes the, general on the front lines fighting a legal battle against PETA when they started to set their sights on that organization for how poorly cared for the chimpanzees were. And from everything I see in the documentary, it seems like they were right on the money with that. I'm not the biggest fan of PETA. I think most of you know that. I still remember the horror stories like the classic, when PETA took a chihuahua from a family and euthanized it like immediately. It was like a speed run to kill this random fucking dog at a trailer park. Like that one I still think about from time to time about how traumatizing that would be if that happened to one of my animals. As well as a handful of other things, but I'm not here to just talk about PETA. I just wanted to mention that I do think in this legal battle, they were in the right, because Tanya Haddix is an unhinged loose cannon, and it led to a crazy set of circumstances that followed. And it touches on a couple notable cases of chimpanzees as pets. Obviously, the most infamous is Travis the chimp, which I'm pretty confident most of you have at least heard of. Travis the chimp was a chimpanzee that was under the care of its owner, and for many years, no problem. It was actually like a celebrity in their area for the longest time. People taking pictures, Travis traveling around to meet people. Everyone loved Travis until one day. Well, actually, it was a series of events that led up to it, but basically, as Travis got older, obviously got stronger, harder to, keep under control if he got rowdy or anything. And Travis started to become depressed after the passing of the owner's husband, and it led to a situation where one of the owner's friends came over to help, and Travis ended up ripping her entire face off. Police were dispatched, and they shot and killed Travis because Travis was going on a rampage. He also ripped off a police car door during all of this. And the woman managed to survive, luckily, but her life has never been the same since. She survived the attack, but it was brutal. And the documentary puts this in here to highlight how dangerous it can be to own exotic animals. I've always said that the only people that could ever reasonably have an exotic animal that makes sense are professional animal handlers for that specific animal that they have. I don't think exotic animals should be owned by just Joe Schmoes and fucking random goobers that just say, hey, I like chimps, I'm going to buy one from this lady in Missouri. That is a disaster waiting to happen, and of course it's terrible for the animals. In the documentary, it looks like these chimps are part of a puppy mill. That's what they were comparing it to, and it's pretty accurate from the conditions that they seem to have been living in and everything that was reported and shown. It's not acceptable at all. And the story that gets told here is one that, again, I don't think anyone could predict. Much like how Tiger King unfolded, I feel like most people probably wouldn't expect the directions this goes. I'll just give you a little sizzler reel here of information. I can't actually show you any clips, obviously. But there is a fake death plot. I'll put that on your plate. And it's not the kind of fake death that I think anyone's expecting with me saying that. I'm trying not to get into spoiler territory, but it goes fucking Insano style. It's not quite to the level as Tiger King, but we're only 2 episodes deep, so maybe it gets even wilder. But it is still just riveting. Like, I can't think of another word for it. It's sad, it's dark, it's gloomy, but you can't help but just get invested in the ridiculousness of what keeps unfolding. There's so many moments in these first 2 episodes that really felt straight out of a Tim and Eric sketch. It's crazy that this is reality. Like, heavens to Betsy, a core component of how this case got to where it was pure happenstance that a psychic reached out during the legal battle to drop a bombshell of information about Tanya. Like, and another crucial component to this was like some really weird information about a cremation where they said that they cooked a body at 160 degrees. And all that was left was a pile of ashes that just happened to look like chocolate cake mix. It's just this powder of like chocolate cake mix. And also 160 degrees. Florida almost gets that hot sometimes just going outside. And you don't see people just fucking being deatomized when they open their front door, just melting, being vaporized, turned into a pile of ash. Like, it's so wacky in the weirdest way. And when I was watching it, from the very beginning, it's very odd. So, the director, the man behind it, Eric Goode, the guy behind Tiger King as well, he was talking about how his reputation from Tiger King has made it like impossible for him to pursue some stories like this because people are apprehensive about it because it painted all the people in Tiger King in such a negative light, so they don't really want to do anything with them. So what he did is he hired a proxy director to kind of fool them into getting into their good graces and being able to do this documentary. And immediately I was like, can you do that? Like, are you even allowed to do that? Like, it almost felt like he was admitting to a crime. And then he also set up, like, some secret cameras during, like, a police, I can't say raid because it's not like a raid, but, like, this police excursion to the chimpanzee facility. He set up secret cameras to, like, film all of it and get all of these different angles and information. He even filmed, like, court hearings, and I don't know if that was, like, okayed beforehand. Like, there's many times I was watching this, and I was like, is he even allowed to put this out there? Like, is this even legal with what he's produced? It's so interesting. And Tanya is just, like, she's not as, you know, over the top as Joe Exotic. She's like a diet Joe Exotic, but she's, like, really creepy in a lot of different ways. Saying things about her obsession with chimpanzees, like, you can transform them into being you, or you can, like, mold them into being you. It was something to that effect. And then talking about how she loves chimpanzees more than her own children and she would do anything to protect them, including giving her life. All kinds of statements and all kinds of things that she does. And you're like, whoa, ooh, oh. Like, it is, like, at many points in this documentary, very disturbing. But yeah, I just wanted to kind of talk about the first two episodes here a little bit. And that's about it. So yeah.